Hi, and welcome to the 14-day weather forecast. The heatwave has broken, changeable conditions have returned, and I'm filming this on St Swithin's Day. Of course, the folklore suggests that whatever the weather is like today, it will continue for the next 40 days and 40 nights. Well, I don't know about that, but let's see if there's any truth in it for the next 2 weeks at least. Here's the picture at 18 GMT on Tuesday the 15th, and there's an area of low pressure bringing showers and longer spells of rain to parts of the UK. So if you believe in St Swithin's and you like warm and sunny weather, this is not a great start. But as I run the sequence, what we see is the ridge of high pressure to the south has more influence for a time, so it turns drier. But then through Friday and into the weekend, low pressures start moving in from the Atlantic once more. Changeable or unsettled conditions develop and they extend southward. So even some parched southern counties could see meaningful rain at this time. Continuing through to conclusion, a weak ridge of high pressure builds in from the west, but it stays quite changeable with some showery spells of rain possible more or less anywhere. Here's the jet stream and upper air temperature sequence for UK inside the red circle, the mottled shaded area of the jet stream track, and it's making a beeline for the UK. There's very warm air to the south, which is shown by the orange shading. Interestingly though, very warm air to the north as well, over Iceland. As I run the sequence, the changeable theme continues through the week. Initially some warm air moves northwards, but by the end there's quite a strong jet stream heading towards the UK. Low pressure systems there associated with it. Let's see some of the day-to-day forecast charts to see what all that means in terms of the weather we experience down at the ground level. Forecast maximum temperatures here on the left are for Wednesday afternoon. 25 to 27 degrees in England and Wales. It's somewhat cooler in the north, but not too bad at all. 21, 22, 23 in Scotland and Northern Ireland, and it's mostly dry with sunny spells, apart from in South Wales and southwestern England. Thursday, temperatures have increased in England up to about 28 or 29. It's more mixed in the north and the west for some heavy showers, possibly thundery showers in places, and that's pegging back the temperatures. Now, with that said, it's a warm picture there in the far northeast. Friday, this could be the hottest day for the first week, up to 30 or 31 there in central and eastern England, according to the UKV model. I'll throw a little caveat in here. I think these temperatures are at the top end of the forecast, and I wouldn't be too surprised if values come in a degree or two lower than those being indicated here. Warm in the north, northeast, cooler there in the northwest, and there are some showers in northern and western areas. In central and eastern England it's staying mostly dry with those hot or very warm conditions at least. By the weekend though, more unsettled weather is developing. As the animation showed at the start, you can see showery outbreaks of rain. Some of those heavy are moving northwards across the UK, so there could well be some high rain totals in places. Temperatures very dependent on cloud cover and rain. You can see here 1 or 2 of the grid points are going up to about 28 degrees through central England into East Anglia, but I wouldn't focus on the details at this stage. It will depend on the extent of rain and cloud cover. In the north up to 21, 22, so quite warm there as well in sunny spells. Forwards to Sunday and Monday. Temperatures are now dipped. Those cooler conditions have returned to all parts of the UK, not far from the average, 22 to 24 in southern and central counties, lower as you head northwards. Also signs of showers or longer spells of rain more or less developing anywhere, but sunny periods too, so it's quite a mixed theme at this stage. The graph here is showing forecast pressure for London from the Mogreps G ensemble. Each line represents a forecast from one of the runs within the model. Through the first few days it's around 1,015 or give or take a little bit, but from about the 17th there is a clear dip showing up, and although the runs are starting to diverge a little bit, the trend is clearly downwards, and that's suggesting those more unsettled conditions reaching southern England at least for a time. So as I've said, there could be some significant amounts of rain even in the south, and that's shown here. It's also for Moghreb Street, also for London. Rain rates have been plotted. You can see quite a few big spikes there between about the 18th or 19th of July for several days thereafter. So it could well be quite a different feel to the weather than we've had for much of the summer. And the aggregate rain forecast charts from the ECM and GFS models offer some support for that idea. These show totals for the first 5 days in millimetres. As ever, don't focus too much on the details, but the key point is that it's not just the west and the northwest of the UK which is seeing significant amounts of rain. Even parts of central and southern Britain are through this period. And moving forwards to the 10-day charts, totals have increased more or less everywhere, particularly with the ECM model, which is the chart on the left. GFS still doesn't show huge amounts of rain there in East Anglia and the southeastern corner, between about 9 and 20 millimetres through the 10-day period, but it is at the lower end of forecasts. You can see, as I say, the ECM on the left going for between 30 and 60 millimetres in those same areas. So the message is there could be some meaningful rain on the way to southern counties at last. Now, in more general terms, do the deterministic models support each other as we head towards the end of the first week, or have they all gone off in different directions? This is the GFS on Tuesday the 22nd. High pressure to the southwest, pressure over the UK is quite low. There are indications here that the air aloft will be rather warm, but it's a changeable picture. The Canadian model, quite similar. High pressure there, maybe starting to exert a little bit more influence in the days which were to follow, but at this point there's an area of low pressure here, so it's quite changeable, chance of showers, maybe some long spells of rain. The German icon model, quite similar. The European ECM, high pressure close to the Azores, trying to build northwards, but it's also a changeable theme at this point with areas of low pressure close to the UK. The artificial intelligence version of the model, rather similar, but maybe the high pressure sticking its nose in a little bit more. And finally, the UK Met Office Global, an area of low pressure here over southern Britain, high pressure ridging northeastwards just to the west. So all in all, it's quite a mixed end to the first week. There's a risk of showers or long spells of rain, but sunny periods are still possible too. And I think temperatures would be rather warm or warm in the sunshine, but if a cloud and rain comes along, that certainly will peg them down significantly. So overall, probably not that far from the average. So what happens as we go through the second week? Does that rather mixed theme continue? Of course, it's just the trends and the probabilities at this range. This is the 16-day GEFS plot for London, and 850 HPA temperatures across the top. The trend is for them to be close to the norm, which is quite unusual by recent standards. The thick purple line is the average of all of the runs in the ensemble. The thick black line, the 30-year norm, and you can see they stay close together throughout the second week. But there is quite a big spread there. There are still some very warm runs appearing later on through the second half, going up above the 15 Celsius line. Also some cooler ones. So all in all, the ensemble mean probably isn't such a bad figure to go with on this occasion. I think the biggest cluster is probably close to the average. With that said, it's not an insignificant minority which are bringing in much warmer air. The rain risk, well, there are some spikes there, particularly early on, but dry periods too, maybe the chance of them increasing later on. And the European ensemble shows something rather similar. it's perhaps a little bit more favourable for warmer air aloft. And also the chance of dry conditions is increasing later on through the second week. This is London as well. You can tell that by looking at these grey numbers. I know they're difficult to read, but they show the percentage of runs in the ensemble which are forecasting dry conditions at the given time step. And if you can read from what you'll see is they are increasing towards the end of the second week. So from about 40 to 50% early on to 70, 80 or even 90 later in the period. The 2 metre temperatures for London using the GEFS data, so the temperatures which we actually experience rather than those aloft, closer to the average I think than they have been for a long time. It's mainly this orangey reddy colour for 21 to 25s which is dominating the columns. Still a reasonable amount of red, those runs going for 26 to 30 and even a little bit of pink, the over 30s, but these reds and pinks are taking up less space in the columns than on many of my recent updates. Some cooler runs there as well, the 16s to 20s indicated by this colour. For the overnight lows, quite a lot of yellow, 11 to 15, but still 16 to 20 is dominant, so the nights could well be quite muggy and sticky at times, despite the daytime temperatures being lower than they have been. Up to Manchester, the signal for 850 HPA temperatures is similar to the London one, close to the average, in fact perhaps just dipping a little bit below it towards the middle part of the second week. The risk of rain is ongoing. There are more spikes here than there were on the London plot. The 2 metre temperature data tables, fairly consistent through the second week. It's the 16s to 20s which are dominant here. There isn't much of an upwards trend or a downwards trend. The nighttime lows, 11 to 15. Continuing the journey up to the northwest of the UK, so Glasgow, upper air temperatures also close to the average here, maybe dipping a little bit below for a time like they did on the Manchester plot, and the risk of rain is ongoing. More spikes here than on the Manchester graph, which had more than on the London one, so it's the typical profile. Through the second week, the wettest conditions in the northwest, but even the south could see some rain. The 2 metre temperatures for Glasgow, the orange shading dominates, 16s to 20, and the nighttime values are significantly lower than they were further south. It's the 6 to 10s which are taking up most space in the columns. If anything, there's a little bit of a downwards trend. Rainfall through the second week. The ECM probability charts showing the percentage chance of 5 or more millimetres of rainfall in the first 3 days. Wettest in the northwest. You can see the green and the orange shading there, so especially Western Scotland, Wales early on. Driest in the south and the east. With that said, the first 2 days there do suggest a significant risk of rain in the south and the east. The one on the right for day 3 is looking drier with a lighter shading. The next 3 days, the distribution profile remains more or less the same. Wettest in Western Scotland, the orange shading indicating around about 60 to 70% chance of 5 millimetres or more of rain falling on each of those days. Chance falls substantially as you head southwards and eastwards. The mean surface level pressure data table for York has perhaps a slight trend upwards. The amount of green in the columns starts to decrease. It's not a linear progression. You can see it increases there for a day or so before reducing once more. It ties in quite well, I think, with the more unsettled theme which I discussed through the middle part of the first week, gradually giving way to a greater chance of dry periods, particularly in the south as we head through the second week. So the yellow is becoming dominant, 1011 to 1020 millibars. The GEFS mean surface level pressure snapshot chart for Friday the 25th of July has the Azores high pressure trying to build northeastwards, more influence in the south, and Atlantic flow more likely in the north. The European ensemble is fairly consistent. suggesting that high pressure from the southwest may well have some influence at times. Also some indications that the air aloft will be warm or even very warm, at least the potential is there for it to be on occasion. But as I've already mentioned, the temperatures will be very, very dependent upon the extent of cloud cover and rain. So to summarise, week 1, changeable, but through the first few days temperatures rise and it may actually become hot in southern and central areas for a time. Temperatures then dip as the weather turns more unsettled. Areas of low pressure push in from the Atlantic. They bring a chance of showers, maybe thunderstorms and longer outbreaks of rain too. Even some of the parched counties of southern England could have significant amounts of rain through this period. Week 2, changeable with further spells of rain. Also settled periods though, mostly in the south, and the chance of them increases later on. Temperatures probably closer to the norm than they have been for much of the summer so far. With that said, very warm spells remain possible, particularly in the south. So, there we have it. Perhaps St Swithin's is onto something this year, because it looks like it's going to be a much more mixed bag of weather through the next 2 weeks. Also, of course, it coincides with the start of the school holidays. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. As ever, then if you did, please consider hitting the like button below and subscribing to the channel. In that way, you'll not be missing any of my future updates. Also, remember to stay up to date with the day-to-day weather developments by checking out TheWeatherOutlook.com website. Thanks very much now. Bye.